Excellent. So we should be recording now. Sure, we got the cool wall in the background. So just reporting here from the CC Summit 2023 in Mexico City. We're upstairs, hidden away from the crowds, finding some good internet on site. And I've got my good friend Levine virtual buddying for me today. And our special guest, Anya, who's here as the keynote for later today, Friday at 1 p.m. I believe the keynote's
Maybe
1:30, I think. It's our last day on the event and the conference. So I just explained to her what this virtually connecting is about for anyone joining or seeing this. We'd like to have these hallway conversations. When you go to conferences, sometimes you don't even go to the sessions. You just hang out in the hallways and have great conversations with people. And when you watch an event online, all you really get is the sessions, and you're missing these hallway conversations. So maybe we could hear a bit about yourself. You don't need to tell us what we're going to do in the keynote because they can watch
Oh,
that.
come on. A spoiler, a little spoiler. Anya.
I don't know. Is anybody watching right now?
Or
Just me.
Alan's here with us.
I remember you from the old open ed days.
Yeah. We hung out at that meeting out at LA, I think.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how Alan wrote me.
Yes.
Side's more open ed than
Yeah. Anya had brushings with Jim Groom and DS 106. And
excellent. So we've got lots of things. We can just go down that path today.
For sure.
I did a lot of setup of the blogging by my students and then syndicating it into the feed of the blog. And that's how I met Alan, kind of, because I was following his work with Brian Lamb when they were doing it up in Thompson Rivers University. And I was totally stalking them and said, I got to figure out how to do this so I can copy these guys.
Yeah.
So that's how I met Alan.
Very cool. Yeah.
Hey, there's Werner. Come on and chat. Let me set up and make sure we've got. All right, jump in, my friend.
Werner.
You know
Alan, my favorite Alan in the world.
You got to call me Adam. Everybody calls me Adam.
Yeah, well, there's that. What do you tell us about what you hope to accomplish today and speaking of Creative Commons Summit?
Accomplish.
Yeah. I'll get it back.
Well, I'm here because Nate invited me, and because Mexico City is an amazing city, and because I think it's a good moment for some creative thinking about the future of technology and something that's human-centric. I sort of started my conversations with this world like around 2008, 2009, in the beginnings of the MOOC world. And I was so I'd come up from it. I was an education journalist, and I did my first book about sort of the cost of college, about student debt. And I was talking to millennials at the time, young people, about what it felt like to be just feeling like they were shut out of the path to a sustainable future, and dealing with, student loans, credit card debt, and being the first generation that wouldn't do as well economically as their parents. And because of that book, I got a chance to travel around the country and go to all different kinds of higher ed institutions, and Canada too, and hear more about sort of not just the cost of higher ed, but also the quality and access and relevance of higher ed, and then also about what solutions might be out there. And so that's what really tipped me into thinking about the alternative ed world. And it was such an interesting time. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was like really, things were breaking open, like new technologies were making new things available, and people were experimenting. So that was like a really fun few years, I would say.
Yeah. And I remember a lot of the interactions that we had, and gosh, it seems almost nostalgic, like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
Totally. So what's on your current plane of interest right now? I assume that's what you're talking about, but
yeah, well, yes and no, actually. So from there, I covered education and the intersection of education technology for many years. I wrote 2 more books about that, and then worked for NPR, and NPR had a little bit more of a traditional, like just straight up education. So it was K-12 policy, federal policy, state policy, very unfortunately covering education in the mid 2010s was also about Parkland, and it was about race and poverty and a bunch of different and cities. So it was a very interesting beat, but it was taking me out of the technology space. And then COVID hit. And I published a book about the experiences of children in COVID, because I was there in a national position to cover what was happening in schools with school closures, but also, it was like schools are shutting down, we're going to go online. And I was like, ooh, I don't think that's not going to be how you think it's going to be. You can't just switch on a computer and replace education. In fact, there's a lot of well-documented problems with that. And so I was in a position really early on to see that it was going to be the disaster that it turned out to be, and covered that for the last couple years. And then it's like hard, seems very swervy now, but it makes a lot of sense in my head. Thinking about so that book is really about how we build a child-centric society, right? So why is it that we're not making decisions with children in mind, and what the consequences of that are? And so now I left NPR and I'm working on that, but with climate change instead of COVID. So I'm thinking about, we have this generational justice issue. Like climate change is the ultimate generational justice issue. It totally changes depending on when you were born. And obviously we're not addressing it. And young people are the least responsible and the most affected. And so what shall we as not young people do about that? We can work through schools, we can work through community organizations, we can work in families as parents. And so I now support those efforts with any way that I can.
Well, that makes total sense with Creative Commons.
Yeah.
The whole push now for climate change and understanding. So lots of things there. So the kids we lost during the pandemic, in the tech world, it's like, oh, that's all over. Let's just rush ahead. And it's like, wait a minute. There are people just moving through the system who missed those couple of years of really incredible things. And I'd imagine, Werner, your experience has seen quite a bit of this. And so, how do we still keep that in mind as everything is rushing forward? Not even mention the two-letter acronym.
Well, I think there's a lot of issues that are part of long-term processes that we're seeing. The one that compels me the most is related to education, and we're seeing an educational system that was kind of built in another society today just being crumbling down. And one of the first things that pop up of that long-term process is privatization of education, which diminishes the big public education ethos, because the educational system was functional to the consolidation of a nation and its economic development. And we're seeing that process of privatization diminishing that, and that has a big cost, especially in those socially vulnerable, marginalized groups. And I think the COVID disruption just really amplified that process that is much further than what we saw in the last few years. And it's not only the system that is crumbling down, it's the way that we thought that people should be educated that's also crumbling down. There's no need to transmit information from one head to another when you have wonderful tools, and tools that are getting very much more complex and more efficient. Thinking about all the AI, how AI is kind of swarming, invading the educational sphere. And I think one of the big issues that reflect that is how states are just willing to cut more and more on budgets, on the prioritization of public interest with it. And that can only end up with having kids at the last part of the policy cycle, and they're just left on the end, which is basically marginalize them. So it's very hard times, yeah, and there's a lot of discourse around that all has been, the cause has been COVID, but I think there's a lot of processes on the long term. Anya, you've covered that for so many years, and in your different books, and it's not something that it's a whole change of paradigm that we have to embrace to give our children and our youth hope again. I think all these social emotional issues, all the mental health issues that weren't even taken into account in a normal school.
Yeah.
They just popped up and with such force, and really need to stack up and address all these issues. So, and I think openness and open education in specific, brings a whole new world of possibilities, so we can fill the gaps that we're seeing, and all the damage that our children and youth has encountered. I think we're only just seeing now the top of the iceberg.
Yeah.
In Chile, we about a month ago, we got to know the standardized testing results.
Yeah.
The first results after the COVID, and we've had a regression of a decade.
Yeah.
Wow.
We weren't going that up. It was very stable. We were just doing, but then we just dropped down, and we went back 10 years, and
So did the US.
yes, everybody in the world. So there's been a lot of talk about this generational catastrophe that we're facing, and we're just now starting to see, some of the effects of that. And learning losses is one of the biggest ones. And there's been some calculations that COVID has promoted learning loss by 2 years, between 1.5 and 2 years. So our kids have just gone back, and they've lost a lot of fundamental skills that are so much needful for their future. So yeah, it's tough times. And just to close that, when we think about how to move forward, the first thing we need to do is put the children in the front, in the core of any solution that we can make. We have to change this idea of these top-down ways of looking for answers or solving problems. We need to first put the kids in the spotlight, and then see what we can build on top of that. I think that's one of the crucial things.
I totally agree. Yeah. And I mean, I think what's fascinating to me is when you think about the breakdown of this national institution of education. That is something that in some sense, people in this world, open ed world, advocated for in a way, right? Let's not have top down. Let's not have these giant institutions. Let's have multiple pathways and multiple. Right. But so it's like you wanted anarchy, and now we have anarchy, but not in the way that people hoped for. But I do think that if you really do listen to young people as they start to be able to articulate their own goals, they want skills, they want empowerment, they definitely want this sense of connection and belonging that a school community can bring. They want mentorship for sure. But do they necessarily want to be told where to go and what to do and where to be for 8 hours a day, 12 years of their lives? I mean, one thing that my kids, like, they weren't being ordered around for 2.5 years,
Right.
the way that you like raise your hand to go to the bathroom.
They didn't want to go back to 2019. They want to move forward.
That's right. That's right. And the education system is very challenged to try to do that because educators are burnt out. In the US, we had an infusion of money that's now coming to an end.
And there's just not enough educators in Canada and Quebec, especially. They were just really short, and they wanted to just bring parents in to replace teachers. Like, it was just
Well, in
crazy.
the US, they brought in National Guard members, which is kind of the nightmare. Yeah.
Wow.
In a couple places to substitute. Yeah.
Well, that's total image.
It is.
I was sorry to pose a question from the side, but we were talking about test scores going down and stuff, and I wonder, has that, like, Anya, in your work on the book, does that make you question the degree to which those test scores are a good measure of learning?
Well, it's really hard. Obviously, I've been very critical of standardized testing and the value of it. At the same time, without a benchmark and some kind of comparable information, I mean, it's only one indicator. To me, I think it should be placed in context, and obviously, and the context isn't good. I mean, if you listen to what teachers say about children's behavior, their engagement in school,
Violence.
the violence, the absenteeism,
Yeah.
just children not coming, they're voting with their feet, the disenrollment. All of these things are in the wrong direction. So the test scores are really just one measurement.
Yeah, you have to be very cautious with standardized testing. It's just a small photo of all what learning should, achieve. And we also have to remember that standardized testing, it's functional to one type of educational pedagogy, which is very much traditional. So it can, but we can also attend that standardized testing, at least the ones is related to Chile, is that it's standardized testing for fundamental skills. And that is
Like
an
reading,
important issue. I mean, if you don't read well, if you don't have logical thinking, you're going to struggle in the future. So those are.
It's a tool in the toolbox. It's a key on the keyboard. And
And it doesn't relate to quality.
And what happened too, since everyone had these setbacks, there's a new normal, and there's a lack of urgency on the part of a lot of families. And understandably, they have other things to think about, but they're not. I mean, I've heard this many times from principals that without the test scores, I can't convince the parents that the kids need help, because they look at their peers and they say, it seems fine. And they don't want to think that their kid is behind. So the test scores give you that something to point to.
Sounds like we need a radical change.
We're getting a radical change. Radical changes are happening.
It's always this is always the part in the movie where the asteroid hits, right?
Exactly.
But it is hitting. I mean, that's why, is climate change, the possible instigator to maybe look for some change,
I was talking to his name is Orn Pismoni Levy. He's at Teachers College. He's very involved with climate education, and he says he thinks climate education is the most interesting movement in education because it requires a change in not only the content of what we teach, but the relationship of teachers and students to the teaching learning environment. We have to change how we are literally lighting our classrooms, and that's not a level of change that we've had really since the beginning of schoolhouses. Maybe moving from the country one-room schoolhouse to the city
candles to incandescent.
Exactly. And so, and the other part of it is that, and this is the part that I'm paying a lot of attention to, is it's not a science topic, it's a lens for every subject. And there's an unavoidable emotional and moral and civic dimension to climate education. All three of those things. So
very much interdisciplinary.
Yes.
Which is totally against schools. I mean,
standardized testing.
Yeah, in schools you have like these buckets called subjects that it's a silo itself, and climate change it forces you to have a much more integral, environmental view of reality. So
in some ways it draws on traditional and indigenous forms of knowledge that refuse to see things in separate categories. The other part that's super exciting is that it is very much a student-led movement in education, like the student-led movement in education.
Yeah, they care about it.
They're forcing it to happen in cities all over the US. They're saying we want to learn about this.
We need more Gretas.
Yeah.
Well, and actually just more conversations and not just not more Gretas, not more celebrity outspoken. It's like crowds of people demanding.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's get to your keynote. What are you bringing today?
Well,
Give it all away.
I came up with something.
Just a few of us here.
I don't feel qualified to forecast what's going to happen with AI in terms of the promise and the peril. I think I'm surfacing some, what I think are very well taken criticisms from a social perspective of AI. And all of them come from the point of view that AI it's like Soylent Green. It's made from people. People made it, people built it, and it belongs to people. The fruits of the outcomes belong to people. So that's kind of the manifesto part. But then I also have an imagination part. Like AI to me has been this incredible invitation to reimagine humans' place in the world. We'll be talking about that a little bit.
Cool.
And I know Werner will know I say this. The struggle is like, it's beyond our human comprehension to understand what it does. We put something in, we get something out, but we have no understanding. And not just to say it's a black box.
Yeah.
And even when, and I've tried to, I think I'm kind of savvy and techie, I can't understand it.
Yeah.
And like, not that I have to understand like my car. I mean, I can't really fix my engine, but I have sort of a conceptual understanding of this mixture combustion of gas and, increasing pressure and driving pistons. I don't think we have that with these things. And so maybe that's okay. But it seems to me kind of problematic to really come to a human understanding about what we do with this.
Yeah, especially if you want to, use it in the educational field, it's even more challenging. Yeah, and I don't know, when you think about previous technical disruptions or technology disruptions, some of them were very much easy to see. When mobile learning came out, there were devices that but AI is just so much complex. It has so many layers. Each layer has its own lifespan and the ways of doing things, the models that they retrieve.
Yeah, but the tech that they're building with it is so boring. That's like a one-dimensional idea of learning. If they're trotting out Bloom's taxonomy, I mean, I don't think Sal Khan's ever read a learning sciences paper.
And teachers are bringing this into the classroom just because it's the new shiny and a silver bullet. And a lot of teachers traditionally would want to just really test stuff before they brought it into the classroom to make sure they felt comfortable bringing it in. But I think a lot of them are bringing it into the classroom. They have no idea what's going on, but the administrators are pushing them that you got to use this.
Or the students are bringing it in, and they need to have a policy about it because it's stymieing their assignments. And I think that's the most disruptive impact because it's the most widespread.
While we were talking, I noticed that Dave Cormier, who I'm sure we all know, just published a blog post saying that we should no longer make essay assignments at all, not just because of AI, but for other reasons. So we should all go read this post, I think.
Yeah, it's a great.
I don't know, it's a little drastic.
I don't know what he said.
It's Dave.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I just taught my first course. It was a weekend class. And so I had the kids write everything in class. And I said, you can use ChatGPT if you want to. I don't think it's going to help you very much. But it allowed me to shorten the deadline for it because I was like, you're not going to get stuck on a first draft. Like you can
hand it in during class.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Excellent. I'm gonna start to cut us off here, Alan. And
that's okay.
Thank you so much, buddy, because this is so much easier to not run it flying solo in the conversation. And it's also just
I just wanted to see you, Ken. We don't talk much anymore.
Again, my friend.
And Werner, we gotta hang out. It's great to see you again, Anya. Wish I was there. I mean, the setting and the atmosphere and Creative Commons just knows how to put on an event.
Yeah, I'll be up to see you soon, my friend. But wrapping up here, this is the last session we're doing for Virtually Connecting here at the CC Summit 2023. A big thank you to Anya for joining us. And Werner, I'm glad I caught you this morning and dragged you up here to hang out with us as well. And thank you, Nate, especially for suggesting that I come down here and do this. It's been wonderful to join people here at the CC Summit and meet lots of new people as well. So thanks, Alan. And
thank you, Alan.
Let you guys say thank you, and then I'll
we gotta hang out more.
The hard work. You take technology and you just push it to the limit.
Oh, I don't know about that.
The dirty work.
Take it.
I'm like falling way behind, Werner. I'm like a has-been now.
Nah, buddy.
No. You have to keep going.
Okay, well, go hang out with Paul too. I'm glad you guys are there together.
Yeah, we had a great dinner last night.
All right, good to see you, my friend. I'm gonna
Take
cut off
care.
the YouTube stream.
Take
now,
care, Anya. Happy teaching.
Good to see you.
Bye.
and I'll kill the recording. Big hug, buddy. Good to see you.